Welcome to Chamber Exchange, a TV show. Chamber Exchange, a TV show, is an opportunity for us to bring on chamber member businesses and organizations and also talk about economic development and workforce in the region. The show happens because of our sponsors, and that's St. Vincent Hospital and Bank Hometown. I want to thank them again for supporting the show as we kick off 2026. And very pleased to have with us in this first segment Helen Rosenfeld, who is the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Science and Engineering Fair. And maybe, Helen, people grew up, even today, kids are involved in what they might think traditionally have been known as the science fair, but what is the Massachusetts Science and Engineering Fair today, and how has it evolved?
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I think everyone has a story, right, of what they recall from their childhood about being terrified in front of a three-fold board in front of people, or they might think of exploding volcanoes. That's another common thread. I think that what is really unique about the science fair experience, and which is not about exploding volcanoes, is that we want students to engage in independent science and engineering inquiry, do independent research around something that they're curious about, something that they've been thinking about, something that's bothering them in the world, and then doing a deep dive to learn about that, to unpack that, to gather information about that. And through the process, the expectation and the outcome is that they're going to get analytical thinking skills. They're going to get time management skills. They're going to learn how to present and communicate those ideas to the public. And that is sort of the arc of the experience that we want them to have. On a more practical level, in Massachusetts, we work with schools across the Commonwealth. The engagement usually starts in the classroom. In the fall, they're going to be working with their teachers. The teachers are going to guide them through that process, whereby they're going to identify that question, that thing that they want to tackle. Then they're going to gather that information in the classroom or through community partnerships. They're going to distill that information and analyze it, and ultimately they'll present it in a fair or a showcase at their school. And then they might move on to a regional fair or the state fair.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When you were talking, you mentioned kind of as people harken back and think about their own experiences in grammar school, et cetera, with the science fairs, you mentioned those boards.
Yep.
All that kind of distinct, specific boards that everyone has. Somebody made a lot of money on that.
The hope is that some of them may have some very successful projects that they take with them into the future, right? Not just because it's not just something that remains in the classroom. Right. Those are skills and experiences and research that can follow them. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned schools across the spectrum. So, the viewing public might think, this is just, my particular school doing this. But actually, you're a statewide group, and full-time, year-round.
Yes.
So maybe you could tell how about the organization and the role you interface with public schools, I assume charter schools, private Catholic schools, etc., across the
exactly.
spectrum.
So anybody and everyone is welcome to participate. That is the beauty of this. We work with nearly 200 schools across Massachusetts. That ultimately results in nearly 4,000 kids going through the process throughout this experience. We've sort of loosely divided the state into 6 regions. So those regional fairs that I referred to are sort of cut across the state. So here I am in Worcester. This is our Region 2. And this is a process that starts at the beginning of the year.
They compete, like the schools in that area then come to the regional host, if you will.
If they qualify from their school, they can qualify.
At the school, right?
Exactly. Yeah. They can qualify for their regional fair, which ultimately might qualify them for the state fair. I think the important distinction for me is that we think of science fair as a very competitive thing, and really that is the icing on the cake. We want the kids to get excited about the learning part of this. The process of engaging in this is actually the important part. It's wonderful if they make it to one of the fairs. It's great recognition and validation for their work. But if they don't, they've really developed some very durable skills that they can take with them into life and into their next career, their next, academic experience. And I think that's the big difference of perhaps what we perceive of a science fair. It's not just about the competition. It's really about the process.
Right. And, the science fair before STEM became kind of really a household word, science, technology, engineering, math, and before the last 20 years has been a real primacy on STEM education because it's just so critical in terms of jobs and research and kind of competitiveness as an economy.
Exactly.
This has existed and endured, and so as you're talking about kind of the benefits for students, there's probably a lot of parents and teachers that love this. That this is not a tablet or a phone. That there's
Yes.
kind of a presentation, and there's also a larger discussion going on in the state about testing students and how and what that should look like, and portfolios are being kind of considered as a piece of that. So this is kind of some of those skills, those soft skills, presentation skills, research writing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's actually so interesting that it's as timely as ever, right? So I think a lot of people may think, oh, science fair, that's something that that I did when I was in grade school, and as an adult now, they just don't think of it as
Right.
relevant. And yet we're talking about Portrait of a Graduate, we're talking about statewide initiatives, as you mentioned, the portfolios. I think science fair fits so squarely in that because it checks all the boxes. It's getting kids to do these research projects. It's getting them to communicate with adults in the community. It's building the skills that our workforce wants to see when they're hiring. It's really as relevant as ever.
Right. And it's, January, if you could maybe just for our viewers who might have, students themselves or grandkids or, teachers who may have an interest, what's the timeline in the process in terms of the academic year, in terms of registering, getting involved, the regional fairs, the
Exactly.
statewide? How does that?
So we're mid-cycle right now, so we're gearing up towards our fair season. So schools that want to participate for next year should definitely let us know. And I want to just reiterate, we're open to schools from anywhere. We really want to see the full state representation. We're in 21 of the 26 gateway cities. We want to make sure that science fair is accessible to everyone. So science fair is here and ready for you. As far as the timeline, schools should tell us now or this spring if they're interested in getting involved for next year. That allows us to identify the right resources. In the fall is usually when the programs in the schools start to ramp up. So that's the time when the teachers are working with kids to identify what the project that they're going to work on is. They spend the fall working on that. Then the winter time, like around now, they start to finish their presentations. So they're working on those threefold boards. They're working on their presentation communication skills. And then the first science fairs begin probably at the end of February, early March. Although the school ones are, I think our first is in the Boston area starting tomorrow, perhaps.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think there's one tomorrow.
Ready to
Yeah.
tee it off, right? So the regional fair in Central Mass or Worcester County,
Yeah.
and that's one of the regions. Where is that taking place?
Yeah, so we're all in on Worcester this year, very excited. So our regional fairs in Worcester will be March 6th and March 31st, both a middle school and a high school fair. Those are hosted at WPI, a longstanding partner of ours. And then our state fairs are going to be here in Worcester. So April 9th.
Okay.
April 9th
Yeah.
at the DCU Center, and then May 9th at Clark University for our middle school fair.
Okay.
So we're really excited. 4 fairs in Worcester this year.
And you mentioned some of the grade levels. So middle school, high school, but there's also, is there a grammar school piece?
We do not work with
Okay, all right.
elementary schools.
Okay.
I know that they exist, but that's not part of our pathway of support.
Okay,
Right now
so
it's middle school and high school.
High school, okay.
Yeah.
And that's at a point too where some of that middle school, high school level, there's some kids, a fair number, are starting to kind of contemplate kind of career choices or educational pathways, and a good time to kind of get them hands-on and thinking and learning what they may like or don't like.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing. We have this experience of supporting both the STEM forward and the STEM hesitant, I like to say, and everything in between. So you have kids that do science fair, they know up front, this is the thing they're interested in, this is their passion, they're gonna pursue this throughout their career. Then you have the kids who really don't see themselves in STEM yet, and our goal is to make sure that they see they have a place, that they can participate, that this could, they may not win the state fair, but they still could have a very valuable and reliable career in a STEM field.
Right.
And even if they don't pursue STEM, there may be, those durable skills will hold them in good stead no matter what they do going forward.
That's right. And so with the regional fairs, generally, how many students advance and participate in the regional fair, which will be at WPI, and then the statewide,
Yeah.
how many students?
So I believe at our regional fair, we're going to have at least 200, 250 kids participating from across Central Mass. So very excited about that. I think our middle school fair is a little bit smaller, but then from there, a qualifying amount will go to the state fair. Our state fair has about 350 students at the high school level, about 250 at the middle school level. And like I said, overall, we have about 4,000 students across Massachusetts participating. So if you get up to that point,
that's a terrific number.
It's a really impressive pathway.
Yeah. Well, with that, if just want to give a plug, Helen Rosenfeld, Executive Director for the Massachusetts Science and Engineering Fair, and you have a website if people want to learn more, and teachers, parents, students.
Yeah, so scifair.com is our website, so scifair.com, and if people have questions, info@scifair.com is the way to go. Parents can approach their schools to get their schools involved. Teachers who are interested, we'd love to hear from them. We want to get more schools involved, and we're engaging many, many members of the public in the judging experience, which I didn't even get a chance to mention. So 500 volunteers are necessary to pull these fairs off. So we welcome industry and academic connections to get involved.
Well, we love that. Well, Helen, thank you, and thanks for being with us on our first segment. Stay with us. We're going to come right back.